This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. My guest is Karina Jardine Scott. She's the founding director of the organization called Kids in Need of Direction. Well, that name gives it away. What we're talking about this morning, the rash of newspaper headlines over the last couple of days. This probably has to be the biggest story in a long time in Trinidad and Tobago. The care and attention of children in need of direction and in need of help in Trinidad and Tobago. What's been happening? What's the reports about this from this committee that looked into the matter? The relationship between that and the Children's Authority and other agencies in the society. The minister responsible for this area of social life says she's heartbroken over the matter. One headline said that what has been found is a case for police intervention. So where we are on the question of the care and protection of children in Trinidad and Tobago. Ms. Jardine Scott, thank you very much for agreeing to talk with us about this. Let me begin by asking you, what is your response to the fact that these things are happening in an environment in which there's great attention to the question of the universal acknowledgement of the rights of the child?
Well, first of all, thank you. Good morning to our viewers, and thank you to Andy and your team for having me this morning. Well, it was inevitable that eventually information such as this would reach the public domain. It's been many years, situations like this have occurred. But more importantly, it's how it's going to be dealt with. And that, I think, is my main concern, as well as my colleagues from the various many other nonprofit organizations and homes throughout Trinidad and Tobago. KIND was very much involved in a couple homes in Trinidad some time ago, over a decade ago. And from where we stand, we see a lot of the same situations reoccurring while the world is evolving, and we keep claiming, that we are focused on the rights of children, and we're focused on the convention, and we're focused on the United Nations, sustainability, development, etc. A lot of the more important challenges is the day-to-day operation and management of a lot of our homes in Trinidad and in Tobago, as well as a lot of organizations that look after children. There's so much to be done, and there is a lack of manpower and a lack of management in these areas.
Okay, you say there's so much to be done. There's a lack of manpower and focus in the areas because the issue, I don't want to call it a problem, but the social issue of children in need of care and in need of direction is such that it's all consuming. It takes up more than we can give. You think that there's more of a need to be met than the capability of meeting it?
I think there is a large demand to be met, but I don't think we have a plan. I don't think we have the combination. Even though we have manpower, we have extremely well-trained manpower in the Caribbean and especially in Trinidad and Tobago. But we are not owning that manpower and using the manpower in the correct way. And also, we have very archaic management styles within some of these homes. In fact, we have homes that are not even licensed. We have homes that are operating for 20 years, as we do have nonprofit organizations, some not even registered. Yeah. But yet they are being given funding presently. And we have established nonprofit organizations who have charitable status, as well as homes who are not getting government funding and support. So we have a situation where there's no accountability. So we might have the law in place, but who is managing it and who is being, accountable? How is it being done? How is it being implemented? It's the same thing that's reoccurring in a cycle of not really hopelessness, but a cycle of inevitability. And it keeps reoccurring, and we keep talking about it, and we keep meeting about it, and we keep coming up with the legislation and coming up with the mandate and people's hours and time spent to create laws. And then what happens? The laws are not implemented, or the law is watered down, or the mandate is watered down.
All right, I want to come back on some.
Is to have a certain amount of manpower. We don't get the manpower to do the work.
All right, I want to come back on some of these issues as to why you think that is happening and what has to start to happen now, because your question is how we treat with what we're finding out now. But before that, do you think that it appears that abuse of children in Trinidad and Tobago is endemic in our society?
I would say it's close to. I would say, because it comes back to what is the level of abuse. In the Caribbean, slapping a child was very normal in the Caribbean, whereas in the United States, that was a big no-no. Some people consider that abuse. But I think the more tormenting type of abuse, the sexual abuse, I think that is as prevalent in our society. And a lot of it comes from, poverty, families living together, 12 people in one room, and the type of training and what we would call is the broadopsy, family values, etc. In the homes that are in question at the moment, what type of management do they have presently at the homes? And who is making sure that that management is implemented? How could you have a home accommodating a certain number of children that are being brought by the police and being brought by other people, and the home takes the children? I'm not saying that they don't have the love that they want to take the children, but do they have the capacity to manage? Do they have the capacity to deal with these children? Because a lot of times children are brought to homes with the intention of leaving them for 3 weeks or a month because of a court case, because of a situation. And then that child 1 year later is still there and the court case has not been resolved. So it's quite a bit of tangle, a bit of web.
Yeah, one of the stories here talked in depth and at length about the one home in which some of the children are sent out, sort of loaned out to people on weekends and stuff like that. Some people working in the homes have negative police reports and stuff against them.
Yes, I can vouch for some of that because Kind was associated and affiliated with a few homes in Trinidad that we worked with. We assisted them in being able to manage, and it was very challenging and very, very difficult because of the type of management or lack of management that they had. And we didn't have the support from the government body to implement, and that is something that confuses the living daylights out of me. How could you have a home in Trinidad taking in children and a government body cannot mandate that home to do certain things? Where is the license? Who is handling, who is going daily, weekly to make sure things are being put in place? It's a very sort of casual situation, and it can't be any more like this. It can't. We cannot, a country is really, when we see how we treat the elderly and we treat our underprivileged and we treat our children in our homes, is a very big reflection of the society that we live in. And we have to take responsibility, because not because something flares up in the media means that that particular home or any nonprofit isn't doing their job. People are also doing their job, but they're also life issues, things evolving, speed, all different types of things that are happening. So we can't just take it as, immediately this has happened, because there are also good things that are happening at the same time, and that has to be recognized.
Yeah. What is the agency? What is the sort of subset of agencies and authorities and authority organizations which should be doing that kind of policing and surveilling and certifying or decertifying?
Well, if you go on to the Children's Authority's website, you would see the list of supervisory skills that and mandates that they have in place. We were also part of the formation of the Children's Authority many years ago, and that came directly from the UN's Convention on Rights of the Child. So ultimately, the Children's Authority would be responsible for the homes that are licensed, etc. And they would have their social workers, guidance personnel, etc., to oversee the home. So if the home is registered and getting a subvention, etc., it is part and parcel of the government's responsibility to be able to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Now, with that said, do we have enough manpower at the Children's Authority to be able to manage this? Do we have enough things put in place for it to be handled? So these are some areas, the corporate governance aspect of it. I mean, they have quite a few. The training of the staff. Do they have the correct staff? Not only at Children's Authority, but at the home. If they're getting a subvention and they have money, is that money sufficient to run the home? Is it sufficient to train staff? Is it sufficient to meet the needs of the children in the home? And what is the mandate in terms of children coming in? What criteria do they have to complete for children coming in? And who is the social worker, for this child coming in? Where's the child coming from? the police information. So it's really a number of services and a number of organizations that have to be part and parcel. But if we don't have a plan, everybody's sort of reactionary and acting in silo. And, where do we merge and where do we sort of complement each other to make sure at the end of the day, the result is a well-run institution that people can recommend and are proud to be part of.
What is the sense of lack of understanding here if one believes that the mere existence and establishment and functioning of the Children's Authority would have taken care of all those things?
Well, it's difficult because when we were coming up with the mandate and the information supposed to govern the Children's Authority, it ended up being a watered-down version, and the staff capacity they can't manage. So that is something that has to be seriously reviewed, because if it is that we want to say we want to implement and we want to do this, we can't just talk the talk. We have to walk the walk as well. So there's a lot of sort of revisiting that has to be done in terms of not only the firefighting aspect of this whole crisis that's taking place, but the future of it, over what kind of timeline. As the other part too, we have to move with speed. In Trinidad, we have a tendency to talk and talk and talk and talk. When do we act and make a difference and make changes? Because there are many organizations that have the capacity to make serious changes, immediate serious changes. Are we going to go down that road and try and resolve this?
But you think we should, or we have to?
I think we have to. I mean, even saying a simple statement like closing one of the homes. There's a particular home that they're saying to close the home. Okay, if we close the home, where are the children going? It's a reality. We are short of homes, and that's why a lot of the homes take on so many children. And originally, they may have started taking it on because they just felt, oh my God, what are we going to do with the child? Is the child going to sleep in the police station? Think about it. Paint the picture. A 9-year-old gets touched, gets interfered with, gets raped. That 9-year-old goes to a police station with a guardian, an uncle, a cousin, whoever. Where is that 9-year-old child going? If everywhere is full, where is that 9-year-old child going? Is that child getting counseling at the police station? Are the police officers trained adequately to be able to handle that 9-year-old child? It's a lot of things that by 2022, we shouldn't have the same problem that we had 10 years ago.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we take it up on the other side. One of the conclusions from the investigating team was that the Children's Authority is, quote, not adequately or efficiently fulfilling its mandate. Take that up on the other side. This is 10 Questions. We'll be back in a moment.
North Coast Jazz 2022. You asked for it. Consider it done. Park in comfort at the Queen's Park Savannah and ride in style to festival grounds for the biggest family event. North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Park, ride, enjoy. It's all about family. Family Saturday, May 28th. Together again. Festival grounds, Blanchisseuse. Family. A tribute to Lord Nelson. North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Born here, played here.
Get your tickets now at Crosby St. James, Extra Foods Arima, Sagre Grande, Grand Bazaar, Endeavour and Chaguanas, Digicel Trend City and C3 Malls, and Digicel Head Office, 11C Maraval, WESN, 38 Gattaca Street, Woodbrook, Suntix.com, or call our ticket hotline at 628-5835 or 681-1516.
We dare you to dream, to see beyond the struggle, to envision the possibilities, to live life with unlimited vision. Ferrera Optical supports you with complete eyewear starting at only $795. Let's make those dreams a reality. So book your visit via 227-7000, WhatsApp message 278-2878, or at FerreraOptical.com today. We dare you to keep going. Ferrera Optical says, don't limit your vision.
Tune in to WESN Content Capital from May 5th to 13th as we bring you exclusive coverage of the TTCB's T20 Festival. 8 teams will face off at the Cricket Centre in Balmain, Couva. Follow us for the live action only on WESN Content Capital, your home for cricket.
Welcome back to the program. This is 10 Questions. The issue, the state of affairs regarding the care and attention for children in Trinidad and Tobago, children in children's homes. The report of the committee headed by retired Justice Judith Jones has painted a very dark and gloomy picture on that. Our guest, Karina Jardine Scott, she's herself founder and director of one such organization, Kids in Need of Direction. You said earlier as we began, so after all of this, this bundle of front pages here over the last 8 days, the stuff of House of Horror, culprits will not escape, a house of abuse, and all of that. The minister saying she's heartbroken about this. Take that up from the point of one of the conclusions in the report from the investigators is that the Children's Authority is not adequately or efficiently fulfilling its mandate. What's your response to that? Is that a reality?
Yes, it's a reality. As I had indicated before, many groups, many of our colleagues and myself included were part of, the forum and the putting together of the mandate and the guidelines when Children's Authority was starting. And the information that we had submitted, as well as many other groups had submitted at the time, eventually was extremely watered down. And the recommendations for Children's Authority's manpower is far exceeds the manpower that they currently have. So they can't cope with the situation. I mean, they're responsible for the assessment of the homes. They're responsible for implementing, for giving licenses, that kind of thing. And I think they have about 15 homes under their purview. But there are a lot of other homes operating that have been operating for years that still have no licenses. And even before the Children's Authority came into place, you had homes operating that there was just, somebody opened their doors and took children in. And that's what the situation was then. So how is it better from then to now in 2022?
To a large extent, you think that the home that is under intense scrutiny among the rest in this series of reporting was one such, or is one such? People just opened their homes and took children in because of some kind of an understanding of a kind heart, but they're not meeting the standard of care and attention that is required.
Oh, absolutely. Because we were very closely involved with that home many years ago when after they had opened and all of that, they completely took children in just out of a kind heart, etc. But I mean, you also need to have some kind of training and some kind of support system. And there was no support system other than, nonprofits and just people with a big heart as well coming to support. And I know Family Services got involved at that time because we were also involved along those lines with Family Services too, in assisting, and there were certain recommendations made by Family Services, and here we are.
Yeah, I don't want to trample on your sense of modesty, but I'm intrigued as to what are the skill sets somebody has to have or be seen to have to even be invited to come together and begin to put the platform in place for the establishment of something like the Children's Authority?
Well, for one, the skill set of the varying groups that came, I think, has to be result-oriented. It has to be like-minded individuals who have a commitment and an understanding of what they would like to see, and for children and for youth in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as we had the lead from the United Nations representative who came, and we did the forum in Trinidad at one of the government buildings downtown. I don't remember offhand. I think it was at Central Bank or something. We did it, and we went through some of the recommendations by them, and it was over several weeks. We did this, where we put together documentation, then we submitted, information that we thought were necessary after we had read the UN's proposal and their information. So it's not something that we just made up as time went by, but definitely the affiliations and the groups that were involved were people who are working in the area of children's care. And for you to be working in the area of children's care, you must have some kind of empathy and understanding and have some kind of background. You have to be that type of individual naturally as well to want to be part of something like that. And at the time, we thought it was a very important responsibility, and we took it very seriously, as so did our colleagues at the time as well.
Yeah, so one of these headlines here, as I said, we will come back to, because your question is what will happen next. And this headline says that, this is the minister talking, culprits will not escape. The minister is demanding, from what was said to be the demanding report on it, pledges to bring lawbreakers to justice. And the police say that there are cases before the courts and others under the radar.
Right, well, that's the next problem. How long do we take to do things? What about the judicial system? How easy it is to sort it out. I mean, I find sometimes, my personal opinion, we take so long to do things, and then they lose evidence, information. These things should be done quickly, effectively, efficiently. And that's one of the first things that I shared with you was, what is the plan?
Yes.
Do we have a plan to react, or are we just reactionary and firefighting mode? And then another story comes into play, and then 2 years from now, where are we with the home? Because several of the homes were queried and questioned 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and here we are.
What do you think ought to be the case to move forward? What do you think has to be happening? What are some of the decisions that have to be made?
Well, some of the things that have to be made is, well, of course, a full investigation has to be done, but it has to be done quickly. And there are several other organizations and persons, individuals in Trinidad and Tobago that have excellent training and who know how to handle cases like this. I think some of the homes lack, psychological assistance, counseling, things like that. And I think first and foremost, those children have to be looked after. They have to be looked after first and foremost while all the other stuff is going on. And the minister needs to get involved, on a personal level, as also all the heads, and really rely on other persons as well who can advise how to handle certain aspects to do, especially with the children. Because first and foremost are those children that you have to deal with. And while you're doing all those things, we have to review, especially if there's a home with no license, with no supervision, who is supervising? Where's the accountability? So there's several arms of it that have to be worked on all at the same time. And it's a very frightening and difficult and challenging situation, because, as I said before too, not because something has come up into the media that's negative does not mean that good things are also happening. There are many good things happening too, but we can't let this one pass.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember in the last couple of weeks, there was a story in the paper that I wanted to follow outside of not being unaware of the fact that this report is going to hit the press so soon. I think it was the St. Jude's Home for Girls, and there is an NGO working with them to create entrepreneurs, if my memory serves me right, and something is developing there. So you have that kind of thing happening.
Yes, and you have many NGOs and many great individuals. Trinidad and Tobago, we are a very kind society. The challenge is the management and the accountability. So organizations and companies can get involved and stuff like that too, which I think would be very helpful, because they're basic needs that at St. Jude's and other homes. What about personal care items and food? I mean, some of the things that came out of that article had to do with those things as well. So there are many areas that we need a priority list, and that, because I would love to see what would be the next steps, the immediate next steps, with a timeline as to how we can, try and wrap our heads around and make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I think the most important thing is making sure that, one, there's accountability, two, there's management, and three, that who are the perpetrators? Where's the information and the evidence and that type of thing? And I think, people have to be brought to justice at the same time. A lot of times in our Caribbean island, things happen and it just goes by the side. People are not brought to justice, and people feel that when you say something negative or you demand accountability, well, you know what? We're not going to assist you. We're not going to, and that's just plain wrong. We want a better country. And that's why we're speaking out. We're not trying to point fingers or bring anybody down, but fair is fair. And these children didn't deserve this.
Yeah, I want to ask a question on the issue of reality. In one headline, or one of these stories here, it is said that what is disclosed is that the particular house that is under the sort of glare now gets something like $72,000 a month from the government. To what extent that is sufficient, and where else would the rest of what is required to run this place on a monthly basis be coming from? How far does $72,000?
$75,000 is what it's stated that they get. At the moment, I don't know how many children, because they base it on the number of children in the home.
Yeah.
So I don't know the accuracy of how many children are in the home. When I worked with that home many years ago, it varied based on the situation, based on the court case, etc. So I would believe that is more than enough to run the home, as long as the home is not doing any kind of renovation. When Kine was involved with the home, we did renovations at the home and we assisted the home. So it depends. It depends how many kids are there, how are they, segmented, how are they in groups, what age group, how many beds, that type of thing. I wouldn't know those personalized items at this point in time. But from my perspective, in terms of the understanding of when we were involved and how what was required at the time, $75,000 is a good bit of money to be able to run the home. And also, too, what are the needs of the home? That has to be examined, because it has to be examined against the money that they're receiving. And are the needs of the children in that home being met? Are the needs being met? Because, when we look at life, how it's evolving so quickly, things are changing at the drop of a hat. So are the needs of these kids being met? How often are they getting counseling? Because these kids going into these homes are coming from difficult and challenging situations. So that's how we have to look at now. This particular home in question is not licensed. So who's supervising the home?
Yeah. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, because there are other questions about what is the rule that allows a home to send children out to sleep. The report said that there was something to the effect that in some cases several of children are sleeping on the same bed, and that is an incubator for another kind of
yes. Yeah. But that is pretty standard in a lot of homes that have a lot of more than they need, more children than they have beds to accommodate, and that is pretty standard. That does happen quite often in many homes, and some of the children need that kind of oldest friend to be with because they're scared. So you have those kind of things, but do they have the matrons at night? So they have a lot of questions that need to be answered. And it's very unfortunate that it has reached to this level, because as I said before too, if that home is closed, where are those children
going to go? Right, that's a question that somebody has to answer before we take some of the decisions. All right, we have to leave it there. Karina, Jardine, Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Well, that's been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.